Welcome to the 12th season of Asian American Life. I'm your host, Ernabel DeMillo. We're kicking off our newest season with news and stories that impact our communities, including the upcoming mayoral race. Will this be a historical win? I'll have that story coming up. Plus, here's a look at what's ahead on our show. Adoptees for Justice. How does President Trump's immigration policy affect foreign-born adoptees? Plus, CUNY's Asian American Asian Research Institute turns 25. Comedian Kate Rigg pushes boundaries. And Chinatown Legacy Tour explores the community's criminal underworld. This and more on Asian American Life. The mayor's race is heating up. According to the latest polls, Assembly member Zoran Mamdani is leading the pack. But with the election just a few weeks away, nothing is guaranteed, especially when it comes to the Asian American vote. At the intersection of Church and McDonald in Kensington, Brooklyn, you'll find the sign welcoming you to Little Bangladesh. This neighborhood is home to many of New York's Bangladeshi and Muslim community. It's also where Assemblymember Zoran Mamdani beat former Governor Andrew Cuomo by 35 percentage points in the June Democratic primary. For young voters like Kaplan Ceniq, who was born and raised in Kensington, Mamdani's message resonated.
Mamdani says that he will stabilize rents and housing, as well as offer better public transportation for New York City residents, which I find pretty enticing and appealing. So I feel like I kind of lean more towards his values and what he's kind of trying to push at the moment.
Mamdani, who would make history as the first Muslim and first South Asian to lead New York City, handily won neighborhoods with large Asian and Muslim populations. Overall, Mamdani won 52% of first-place primary votes in areas where more than half the population is Asian. While some may not find this surprising, think about this. According to election data, some of the same New Yorkers who voted for a self-proclaimed Democratic Socialist either skipped the 2024 presidential election in protest or voted for Donald Trump.
The electorate is hungry for a change in the systems that are occurring right now.
Glenn Magpantay is commissioner on the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights and longtime voting expert. The shift in the AAPI community does not surprise him.
What's interesting about Asian Americans, as I've studied the community over the years, is that they look very closely at their candidates. They look closely at the candidates' issues. They look closely at, do they represent their interests? And party labels is a secondary consideration.
Overall, Asians make up 21% of the city's voting age population. A majority are registered Democrats, but the community has tilted to the right lately, most recently during the 2024 elections. In areas where at least 45% of the constituents are Asian, Kamala Harris, who would have been the first Asian U.S. president, saw her support drop 37 points from Joe Biden's in 2020. Republicans also picked up a state Senate seat in Brooklyn when the incumbent, I-Wen Chu, lost to Stephen Chan, a retired NYPD officer in a district with a large Asian population.
Asians have historically voted very high for the Democratic Party, but they've also voted for Rudy Giuliani. A larger percentage, not a majority, but did vote for President Trump. We have seen Asian Americans move from the Democrat to the Republican candidates, and they look for the candidates who best represent their interests. They look for the candidates who work for their vote.
And working for that vote means more than just a rally or photo op in Chinatown or Flushing.
So it starts with a level of care to understand a community, the needs, what our communities are facing, and how to reach those communities. And so I think that that's going to be really important for any candidate to do, and to recognize that, we can't be defined by stereotypes. We can't be defined by any lenses that carry bias, that we really need to be understood for a very diverse community that the Asian American Pacific Islander community is.
Anita Gundanna, co-executive director of CACF, the Coalition for Asian American Children and Families, reminds us that AAPIs are not a monolith. So how do you reach this diverse community of 1.3 million people across 30 ethnicities who speak 50 different languages?
Speaking to our communities involves speaking in the language that our communities understand and reaching our communities in ways that they receive information, which is not going to be maybe the traditional modalities of information transmission. So there could be ethnic press or ethnic social media or different kinds of channels through community leaders or faith-based institutions.
Before the primary, CACF hosted a mayor's forum to give the community an opportunity to hear from the candidates. Mamdani did not attend, citing scheduling conflicts. Cuomo also did not attend. CACF did not release a formal statement on their absence.
And make no mistake, this campaign is reaching every corner of this city.
What Mamdani has been doing is walking the streets of the city with his volunteers, chronicling it all on social media. He also released videos in different languages that resonated with the South Asian community. Remember this one with him explaining ranked choice voting in Hindi using Mango Lassi.
ये सिस्टम ऐसे काम करता है. सबसे पहले first choice votes count होते हैं.
His website also includes a drop-down for other languages, including Bangla, Hindi, and Chinese. As of press time, the other candidates, including Cuomo and Adams, don't offer this option. Mamdani also has energized the Muslim community in New York.
The Muslim American community of New York City has played a pivotal role in this campaign.
According to the Council on American Islamic Relations, more than 350,000 Muslim New Yorkers are registered to vote, but only about 12% cast ballots in the last mayor's election in 2021. That number is expected to rise come November.
I know we have a vast Muslim community in New York City. I feel like it's, in a way, putting the religion on a larger scale on the map as a culture, as a community.
There are an estimated 1 million Muslims living in New York City, many of whom identify as Asian.
Many people think of Muslims as coming from the Middle East, but most of the world's Muslims are in Asia. And so that helps because people see Mamdani as a candidate who looks like them. They see a candidate who's never looked like them, who has their belief system, and a candidate who has the issues that they believe in. So there's a lot going for Mamdani, but I would not take the Asian vote for granted.
With Election Day just a few weeks away, all eyes are on how this fast-growing, diverse voting bloc will help decide who will lead New York City. For Asian American Life, I'm Ernabelle DeMillo.
I'm Kyung Yoon. They came to the United States as children, adopted by American families. But for tens of thousands of international adoptees, citizenship was never guaranteed, and some are living in fear of being deported to countries they barely know.
No, I mean, I think most people would assume that if you are adopting a child from another country into your family, and they are taking your legal name, that that child would have citizenship automatically, that that child would have the same rights as their siblings of the families that they're adopted into. I did not have, nor did many adoptees have the same automatic citizenship as a sibling that was born biologically to my adoptive parents.
Alisha Bennett was adopted from Korea at just 3 months old. Her American parents took the crucial step of applying for her citizenship when she was a child, but many adoptees weren't as fortunate and faced significant barriers throughout their lives.
They cannot access Social Security benefits. They cannot access a U.S. passport, and they're all currently, right now, the ones that are residing in the United States, they're all at risk of deportation.
Advocates say President Trump's second term has deepened fear among adoptees without citizenship. With expanded enforcement and a broader interpretation of deportability, some worry that even minor infractions or public criticism could lead to removal, despite their having spent most of their lives in the United States.
They were brought here when they were babies, small children. They were raised here. They went to school here. They worked here. They created their own families here. They got married, they have children. Many of them now are deported and have been sent back to their birth country alone.
One tragic example is Philip Clay, a Korean adoptee deported from the U.S. who later took his own life in South Korea. His story underscores the devastating consequences of inadequate support for adoptees forced to return to countries where they may have no family, no language skills, and no safety net.
Adoptee has the right to citizenship.
When the advocacy organization Adoptees for Justice asked Alisha Bennett to lead a support group for adoptees without citizenship, she didn't hesitate to say yes.
To be able to create a space where people do not feel alone and can share advice and suggestions and just sit with whatever it is that someone's going through in a particular month. It's beautiful.
In 2000, Congress passed the Child Citizenship Act, granting automatic citizenship to some foreign-born adoptees. But a loophole excluded those who were 18 or older on the law's effective date, leaving thousands behind.
It's a partial solution. It did guarantee citizenship for any adopted person under the age of 18 in the year 2000. But there's a lot of adoptees that came before 1983.
Adoptees for Justice is planning to introduce legislation this fall to grant automatic citizenship to all inter-country adoptees, regardless of age or date of adoption. I'm Kyung-Yoon for Asian American Life.
I'm Vivian Lee. CUNY's Asian American Asian Research Institute, or AARI, celebrates its 25th anniversary next year. But it has plenty to celebrate this year, including having a major role in helping to make AAPI history lessons a bigger part of K-12 curricula across New York State.
The Latino community and the Chinese American community had this shared struggle of language access and there not being lingual representation in schools.
Brooklyn High School student Clarissa Kunizaki presents her research on Chinese-speaking and Spanish-speaking parents joining forces in 1960s New York City to improve their neighborhood schools. Hers is one of 17 student-led exhibits of the Localized History Project, a grassroots statewide effort to publicly document the kind of history students want in school.
We have interactive maps, we have artwork, we have zines, we have comics. If New York State listened to them and if localized history was in our classrooms, this is what our classrooms could look like.
Sunderram launched the Localized History Project thanks in part to AARI, the Asian American Asian Research Institute, whose mission since 2001 has been to expand knowledge about the AAPI community's 50-plus ethnicities. And AARI's dean, John Chin, is determined to raise the Institute's profile even more to impact public policy.
That we become the first institution that people think of when they want to get a question answered about Asian American communities. When you put them all together, you don't get a clear picture of what's happening with any of them. One of the ways we address that is we have a range of public programs that really address the vast diversity within our communities.
That includes more than 400 lectures at the Institute, available to view on AARI's website, which gets a respectable 10,000 hits a month. The Institute's fundraising gala in June not only celebrated present and future endeavors, it happened the same week that the New York State Legislature passed the AA-NHPI Education Equity Act, also known as the AA-NHPI Curriculum Bill. AARI was part of the REACH Coalition's push to pass this law, following the nationwide surge in anti-Asian hate crimes during COVID. Assemblywoman Grace Lee, who co-sponsored the bill, took a moment to celebrate this legislative victory at AAAARI's gala.
One of the most memorable moments for me as a legislator was running into a group of young Asian American high school students who came up to Albany to lobby for the AAPI curriculum bill without us putting in the bill and introducing it and doing that work, without the incredible organizing work of the Reach Coalition. That would never happen.
Which brings it all back to why AAARI even exists.
It's great that we have AAARI because Asian Americans are, on the one hand, a fast-growing demographic group with distinct characteristics, and on the other hand, so often neglected when people talk about, well, anything but public policy, where there just isn't any data.
We're still dealing with these age-old stereotypes. So the model minority stereotype that Asians are doing fine, they don't need any help, they don't need any kind of special support, and also the perpetual foreigner stereotype.
Stereotypes consistently challenged by AAARI, one project and lecture at a time. With an unprecedented dedicated funding grant from New York State this year, this little institute that could keeps going. For Asian American Life, I'm Vivian Lee.
When it comes to queer female Asian entertainers in New York City, comedian, actress, writer, and activist Kate Rigg has the market cornered.
What do you see when you pay for your laundry? What do you see when you pay for your sushi rolling? Asians into one concept. Things you buy needed most electronics. Opium, Olympic level ping pong. But there's more than ping pong in the life of a ching chong queen. There's a whole nother world in the heart of this Oriental girl. Rice, rice, baby. Rice.
Hilarious, provocative, and profound. Entertainer Kate Rigg has spent decades exploring and challenging stereotypes of Asians in America through song, dance, and comedy, dating back to Kate's first show, Kate's Chinkorama.
First I was afraid. I was petrified. Thinking I could never live without American GI.
At the time that I launched that show, all the Asians in mainstream media were like, 3 generation of fishermen looking for pearls by the river, or, a mother teaches her daughter to play mahjong, and then they drink tea. That was it, right? Or it was really egregious stereotypes, like the character Long Duck Dong in 16 Candles, which was a kind of a buffoon foreign student. And there was really a deep perception of Asians in America as foreigners, no matter how many generations they'd been here, So we took the word chink, the way that Leguizamo took the word spick, and we made it a chink-o-rama. And I actually got a lot of crap for that at the time. Not a lot. Let me rephrase. I actually got some pushback on it, but most people understood that I was really deconstructing that word because it's a meaningless word.
I bet you didn't know you were Chinese.
Pushing the envelope to dismantle racial perceptions and biases is an art form for this seasoned performer. Born in Canada to an Australian dad and Indonesian mom, Rigg says she grew up disconnected from her Asian roots.
I grew up in really whitey white neighborhoods, so I really did have to teach myself how to be Asian. And I wasn't always successful, I would look for clues in my environment. My mom, they used to have these UNICEF commercials coming on with starving children and stuff, and my mom would go, "Oh look, that looks just like your cousin Siti, the one with the face covered in paste."
All joking aside, Rigg decided to delve deeper into her heritage when she went to study in Australia.
I learned Indonesian for a couple of semesters, and then for the first time I went and visited my very large extended family in Indonesia as a 19-year-old.
After school, the budding performer left Australia for New York to attend Juilliard, and that was where Slanty-Eyed Mama was born.
My band, my duo, which is a sort of a rock, comedy, pop culture, theatrical group. We did Birth of an Asian, Americasiana, Happy Lucky Golden Tofu Panda Dragon Good Time Fun Fun Show, Disorientalism, which is now changed into this community event, and Zombie Asian Moms.
These worldwide critically acclaimed shows are the tip of the iceberg for this award-winning producer and playwright, whose resume boasts a wide array of work from acting in film and TV to stand-up shows on Broadway, a talent she shares with the LGBTQ+ community teaching at Gotham Comedy Club.
I'm half white, half Asian. I'm a rice cracker.
As a queer Asian comedian, when I go into shows that are either for queers or for Asians or for women, anybody considered a minority group, the air is different. I don't have to spend the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes on stage explaining myself or justifying my existence. I can just go into material and there's a kind of kinship. And so I think that representation matters.
And this artist's work consistently reflects that.
When you see what happened during coronavirus, during the pandemic, where suddenly the hate crimes against Asian people ballooned, all those racial stereotypes and epithets came back. It's not so far, unfortunately, in our rearview mirror. So we still have to continue to bring us into the conversation about race in America.
And with that in mind, the creator produced an online show during the pandemic with Joe's Pub.
So I started curating different disciplines, dance, music, spoken word, comedy, the stuff that I do, but curating it through the community, the Asian American community in New York City.
We are strong, strong. We are invincible, invincible. Dragon lady.
5 years and 8 shows later, Disorientalism is a fan favorite at Joe's.
I try to pull together the best of the best that I can find. Broadway talent, concert dance talent, really amazing artists who are accomplished. It's not an amateur show, it's not a beginner show. It's like these amazing artists who people don't really know and have never heard of. So we try to uplift, amplify, and celebrate American Asian artists in New York City.
Work which speaks to the artist's activism that often hits close to home.
I have what they call an invisible disability. I'm neurodivergent. I'm on the autism spectrum. And I'm a creative director for a disability film festival called the Over the Rhine International Film Festival. Often when there's a diversity film festival, people with disabilities are not included. You'll get sort of different ethnicities, and you'll have things like different sexualities or religions or whatever, but they won't have a conversation about people with disabilities. They're in their own film festival over here or their own arts festival, and they're not included in that diversity conversation a lot of the time.
This multi-talented artist just finished the play Polishing Shakespeare and is now working on a book of poetry, a couple of screenplays, some podcasts, and of course, producing once again with Slanty-Eyed Mama.
Our new show is called How to Save Yourself from Stupid Ideas the World Made Up About You and Become an Absolute Legend.
Spoken like a true expert. For Asian American Life, I'm Susan Jun.
Chinatown has always been a tourist destination and home to a thriving Chinese American community. But in the last few years, it's been through some rough times, from the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Superstorm Sandy, and the COVID-19 pandemic. The Chinatown Legacy Tours aims to provide a new perspective of this resilient community with an underground tour of their neighborhood featuring former gang members.
What we're going to be talking about is the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the gangland era of Chinatown.
Roger Lee is the co-founder of the Chinatown Legacy Tours.
Where you're standing is kind of an intersection to where the three main Cantonese gangs were.
The award-winning network news producer saw a gap in Chinatown's tourist industry.
So oftentimes, what you see in the neighborhood are other tour agencies that are led by tour guides that have no invested interest into the neighborhood.
So he and co-founder Bernice Pfluger cooked up the Chinatown Legacy Tours to serve authentic stories about the neighborhood they grew up in, told by the people from the neighborhood.
We felt like we needed to take the story back, and we needed to be the narrators of Chinatown's history.
The tour touches on history from the Opium Wars to the 1865 Chinese Exclusion Act, and from the 1965 Hart-Sellers Immigration Act, which ended racist immigration policies that preferred immigrants from Europe, to the circumstances that led to the era when gangs with names like Ghost Shadows, Flying Dragons, Black Eagles fought for turf in Chinatown to control racketeering, prostitution, and drugs. By the late 1980s, these gangs, made up of mostly young Chinese American men, dominated the heroin trade in New York City.
For those that came in without skills, that first generation, it's tough. There's a lack of economic opportunity, real good paying jobs, professional white collar jobs, right? That if you didn't have a college degree, you couldn't speak the language, you're excluded from that.
Rogers says back in the 1980s, Chinatown was full of low-wage manufacturing jobs. Some latchkey kids whose parents worked long hours were lured into gang life, including a few neighbors.
My block was the stronghold of the Flying Dragons. So a lot of them went to school with my older sister. So a lot of them saw me or knew me since I was about 5 or 6 years old. So they kind of knew I was a kid in the neighborhood, and oftentimes they kind of looked out for me.
This lived experience is an integral part of the Chinatown Legacy tours.
Having our guest speakers, our former gang members or retired police people, we just felt like that was an important part of Chinatown's history.
All our tour guides are native guides. All our guest speakers are from the area, and it's what they're telling you is authentic.
Hi guys, I'm Woody, former gang member.
On this day, a former gang member joined the tour to share stories about his past on the streets of Chinatown. He asked us to protect his identity.
I got shot. I got shot twice. My job, in a sense, is to give a big idea of what the area was like from a gang point of view, but also how I saw it too as just a youth growing up.
This gangland era of Chinatown is really important to talk about because it shows what happens when an entire community is excluded from political opportunity, economic opportunity, and protection.
Lee hopes authentic stories like these will bring new light to Chinatown and bring in more tourists and native New Yorkers like Lenya Floyd.
I didn't know a lot of what I learned today about the history of gangs here, about how people actually got here and why they were here and what was happening all through the 70s, 80s, and 90s and beyond.
We create these immersive experiences, you tell your story, that brings people in, and then from there we can help move these tourists into small businesses, into the mom and pop restaurants that we want to survive.
What Roger and Bernice say they want people to take away from Chinatown is a profound understanding of the community's resilience.
As a community, we're constantly having to just put our foot down, put our heads down, and just kind of march right through whatever the obstacle is. If you're talking about from 9/11 to Superstorm Sandy, to that summer of the blackouts, to COVID, and then the AAPI hate associated with COVID. These are things that happen every decade or so, and it's challenging for the community, but the community always responds, and they're always resilient, and they always bounce back.
For Asian American Life, I'm Rainer Ramirez.
And that's our show for now. Be sure to tune in next month as we celebrate National Book Month with a literary special. And if you want to learn more about all our stories, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And don't forget, you could download the CUNY TV app so you could watch us on the go. I'm Ernabelle DeMillo. I'll see you next time.